Alright, I am back with another Destiny 2 video, and this is sort of a spin-off on the article I wrote this morning and the tweets I tweeted yesterday about how there is a significant new story development this week. And once again, it is put somewhere that almost no one will see it. There is a new radio message at the helm, which is not the development, and you were not even directed to go to the helm. It is a lore page that I think is unlocked by listening to the radio message in the first place. In one of the multiple lore books from the season. I think there's 2 or 3. And this is a lore page that stems from events that were also hidden in a lore page last week. I previously spoke about how I did not like the end of this season, not because of the events that happened, but because of the way they were told. So we got a pretty okay scene of Eris surprise summoning and resurrecting and killing Savathun to cement, the last bit of power she needed to separate Xivu Arath from her throne world. That was a little weird because we had never really thought that was the plan. We thought Eris was probably going to get big and fight Xivu directly, but that isn't what happens. The problem was everything got explained a little more in detail in a radio message, and then everything got explained in even more detail in a lore book where we learned that Savathun, after being resurrected and killed, got resurrected again, and we made some sort of deal with her and Amaru that she could go be free and we would keep Amaru as a hostage. This is, pretty much the biggest Destiny villain in history. I would say Savathun is more important and relevant than the Witness, given her history with the series. And she's just alive now and roaming around, and we had to learn that in a lore page. This week, we also learned in a lore page that Saint 14 went and hunted Savathun down before she could go anywhere of significance, killed her, had Amaru bring her back, and killed her over and over and over and over again with his void powers, as a way to both punish her for what she did to Osiris, his partner, and to teach her a lesson about what it means to be a guardian and becoming strong by dying a million times and being resurrected again, but, mostly just for revenge. It's an awesome scene, and once again, the debate turns toward, why wasn't this in the game? Why wasn't this a cutscene? Why wasn't this at least an animated inkblot cutscene like they have? And this always just comes down to money and time. And with the seasonal model, they barely have enough money and time to do 1 or 2 okay cutscenes in a season. So stuff like this is not super necessary for the plot. I would say that Savathun surviving in general was. But just because it's something that would have been badass as a cutscene doesn't mean they can actually do it. And all of this leads me to believe that they really, really got to get going on this Destiny animated series or Destiny anime or whatever it is. It is pretty much an open secret at this point that there is going to be a Destiny media project that is either a movie or a TV show that is either live action or animated. But all signs, I believe, point toward a Destiny animated series in the vein of what we've seen from a lot of these video game adaptations like Arcane and Cyberpunk Edgerunners and Castlevania and all these projects that have gone really, really, really well in animated format. And the world of Destiny, the way it exists as this kind of grand sci-fi opera, it feels like this would almost be impossible to do in live action in the current state of the industry. We're just not seeing the funding for huge budget sci-fi things that are not Star Wars things on Disney Plus or sci-fi shows on Apple. And even those kind of have their limitations. Like Silo, great sci-fi show on Apple, but it's also contained in a silo. There are very few high budget sci-fi shows. Foundation is one, but you think of Destiny and how much of it would have to be extremely expensive costumes, extremely expensive CGI. It very much makes sense that they would, at the very least, start with some sort of animated series. And it has never been more apparent, I think, than this season, in these last few weeks, that Destiny is in desperate need of something like this, because we keep running into these situations where the hard limits imposed on Destiny seasonal storytelling reduce it to the weekly conversation where we go and watch 2 characters talk and then maybe one kind of good cutscene at the end of it. And it is a little hard to even blame Bungie here because of these limitations that certainly the writers can't really get around. And like what's being written is not bad. It's just the formatting gets all over the place. And they have all these different, it's better than it used to be because it used to only be lore books, essentially. We love our Season of Opulence and stuff, but like the entire plot of that season was essentially some voice work in Menagerie and one lore book. The entire plot of Black Armory was a lore book. So things have evolved since then, but we keep getting these bigger and bigger stories that when we do get cutscenes, it's like, God, how much money do we waste on those terrible Lightfall cutscenes with Nimbus, and like, what we could have gotten is Saint murdering Savathûn over and over. But like, it doesn't really work like that. So I really just want them to announce this, Destiny animated series, and I don't think it is going to parallel the games in the traditional sense. I don't think it's going to be like an animated remake of the games. Certainly, Destiny's story in Destiny 1, if we're starting from the beginning, did not start out the greatest, so I wouldn't even want to adapt that. I just want to see some of Destiny's, best stories, whether it's, a flashback or something, or a side story that we get in one of these lore books, that you could make an entire series out of some of these lore books based on, how elaborate they are, and, featuring at least some of the characters we know and love, and, with the same voice actors preferably. Obviously, we have the tragic situation of Lance Reddick, who's being replaced by Keith David, but, and obviously he would have done the voice for Zavala in any animated series that Zavala was in, but more than, like, this feels like this has been something that has been kind of put on the back burner in everyone's mind, that Destiny is supposed to be expanding beyond just the game, and that does not, we're talking about post-final shape and episodes and Destiny 3, and we're talking about Marathon and some Fall Guys like game that Bungie's making, but we kind of have lost track of this idea that they've really invested in this kind of media arm, and the chief among the projects very much seemed like it was supposed to be a Destiny animated series. So maybe this is still in the works, but I am dying to see something out of that potential here. And given how good we have seen, Arcane and Cyberpunk Edgerunners are two of the best shows on Netflix, period. I would say. I would say you could put at least some of the seasons of Castlevania on there too. I just watched Castlevania Nocturne. I really liked it a lot. Maybe not as good as the original, but very solid. They've done this a number of times where Netflix, for all its faults, has managed to figure out how to do, really good game adaptations, at least in this format. Done really bad game adaptations in some other ways, like the Resident Evil show, which also had poor Lance starring in it. He did his best. And other shows that, we've seen them try to do some sci-fi live action stuff with the Halo show. And I think we all know how that went. There's season 2 coming, which I cannot wait for. Not because I think it's going to be good, but because I cannot wait for the weekly helmetless Master Chief development. Oh, God. So all of these things considered, I do think this is going to happen. I just, more and more as time goes on, I am really reminded of how good Destiny's storytelling can be and how many awesome moments they can put inside the game. It's just so many of them are buried in these lore books, and it feels like if they could get the Bungie writers to be scripting this kind of content for an animated series, even if it's not a direct adaptation of the game, it would be fantastic. And, I don't know if it would be guaranteed to be a success, but it seems very likely to me that Destiny fans would love seeing this world, these characters, rendered with high quality animation, voice work instead of lawyer pages or radio messages, like just kind of unleashing the story potential of Destiny, which I believe has always been there. It's so hamstrung by the cost of executing this stuff, especially in a live game. Games that are not live have, a bit more leeway for stuff like this. And even a game like Diablo 4, like that had a really, really good campaign culminating in like I think it was 8 minutes or 11-minute cutscene that is one of the best cutscenes I've ever seen. And yet they only, the entire game only had 3 or 4 major cutscenes. So you're still pretty limited, even when things really do go right in the cutscene department. So I do hope we hear something about this pretty soon here. This does seem like, the right time to introduce something like this as the main saga is coming to an end. But I know there was the writer's strike. There's a video game voice actors strike potentially happening. The screen actor strike is still going on. So things are a little, up in the air in Hollywood. But yeah, these past 2 weeks have just reminded me of how badly I want to see this animated series come to life. And I wish they'd even just announce it at this point. Like that for me would be enough to get excited about. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, go read that lore page, or you can read my article about the lore page, and I link to the actual things. If you don't want to actually go listen to the radio message and log in, you should still read it. It's a great scene. That is awesome, and Saints really deserved his revenge there. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.